You're listening to Honey, We Made a Disney Podcast. Two friends since rededicating our lives every year at summer camp. Now dads reliving the Disney movies we grew up on with our own kids. I'm JB Waggoner.
And I'm Eddie Ferguson. And on today's episode, we won't forget to file our paperwork as we review Monsters Incorporated. But before that, JB, how are you and the family doing?
Good. We are trying to do, primarily right now, trying to work with my son on getting off pull-ups. It's time. We haven't really made a hard push at it in a while now. We kind of went through the, hey, if you're dry, you'll get something in the morning with the pull-ups, and there's just no consequences to that. So he doesn't really care. So we are going fully into, okay, we're just fully on board with, we're going to wake up in the middle of the night and he's going to be all the things, and we're going to have to clean things up. And so last night was the first night, and luckily he made it all the way till 6 a.m. till he realized. So just a little cleanup a little bit early this morning, but it wasn't like a 2 a.m. have to throw things in the washer or anything like that. So it's where we're at right now.
We did that with Lewis, and we wake him up periodically, like right before we go to bed. But we've got a baby who wakes us up regularly. So it's like, well, we're already up. Let's take him to the bathroom. Mm-hmm. And let's just kill two birds with one stone. But it's weird. I don't know if you've experienced this, like waking up your child when they're dead asleep to then funny. Go use the restroom. They are so out of it. It's whatever is worse than trying to, reason with a drunk person. Whatever is worse than that is this.
That's amazing. I can.
So good luck with that.
Yeah, I can only wait till tomorrow morning when we have to, I'm sure, have to deal with it more. But yeah, that's what we've been doing, is a little bit of that. And also we're in a new phase with him as well. We're in the, why did you do that? I don't know. Like, and you see bewilderment on their face as they're like, why did you take your bowl of business and gravy and just pour out your milk into it? Just pick up the glass and just see, oh, that's a glass, and just dump it all out. Like, you knew what was going to happen, and then he doesn't want to eat it. I'm just like, it's things like that. Today has been all day that, with just one thing after another of like, I can't believe you made it. That was a choice. That wasn't like an accident. You consciously chose to do that, and you knew what was going to happen. But it's been a lot of that.
You know what that reminds me of? Do you know what that reminds me of?
No.
It's like purposefully sitting down to watch a Disney live action remake, knowing that you don't like watching Disney live action remakes and that it's going to be disastrous, but you sit down to watch one anyway. And then halfway through, you're going, why? Why am I doing this? Why am I going through this? And you go, I don't know. Why am I doing this?
It sounds like we've had enough talking about me and more, Eddie. Do you need some counseling on some of the new Disney Plus content that just dropped that you knowingly said yes to and wish you had said no?
I gave Pinocchio a shot. Okay. I gave it a shot. I thought, you know what? It's Robert Zemeckis. It's Tom Hanks. It's Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Come on. This has gotta be, and then as it's getting going, I'm realizing I didn't even like the animated film, right?
Oh, shots fired.
What am I mean, I like its iconic moments. When you wish
Jiminy
upon
Cricket.
A star, yep. Jiminy Cricket. Yeah, there's some good iconic moments in that. And I would say that this hits those notes pretty well. I would say, okay, there's some good moments in there. Tom Hanks gives a solid Tom Hanks performance. Nothing extraordinary, nothing that you were gonna.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Wow, okay. he does a great job, such a great job. You wouldn't even know it's Joseph Gordon-Levitt's voice unless, you saw the billing of it.
Okay. So what happened?
Yeah, it's just, it looks too fake. It looks too, I don't know. I wish it looked too glossy. Make it a little more gritty. It's obviously CGI. This is what's so odd to me is so many things nowadays look like they're CGI. It's like we regressed. We had amazing CGI that didn't look like CGI and was like, whoa, this is incredible. And now we're kind of to this point where it's like, man, you are throwing all of this together so fast. Nobody is buying this. This just looks awful. This just looks horrible.
Do you think it's because, what do you think is the issue here, Eddie? And maybe there was a piece of Pinocchio that you can like expand upon some of the other ones.
I mean the CGI work of Pinocchio himself had its moments where you're like, okay, this looks all right, but it never looked like a real wood puppet brought to life. You know what I mean? Like, you're telling me you can make Grogu like a real prop and be amazing, but you can't do Pinocchio?
Yeah.
And that, don't do Pinocchio CGI. Do it a real practical effect like they did Grogu. Come on, that's amazing. So there's that, and there's a little bit of kind of I don't know if you saw Dumbo. There's some, okay, we're trying to be a little Tim Burton-esque here, where it's the ultra heightened, fantastic.
Oh, it's 100%. It's
Realism
100% him all over that film.
Dumbo, yeah. And it, there's some moments where it works, but
I forgot about Dumbo. I think I kind of liked it, even though it was
I'm
lot
there
different.
With you.
It's a lot different, but I think I liked it. That might be one of my favorite live actions, but I also forgot about it. Like, I forgot that I saw it. I forgot that it exists.
It's very forgettable, but not in there's those that are so bad that you wish they were forgettable. I think Pinocchio might slide towards that end of the spectrum.
Ooh.
So to write things, we my in-laws were in town and they had never seen the live action remake of Cinderella, which Ellie wanted to see as well. So we all sat down and watched that. And it was like, okay, there we go, Disney. We know you can do this. We know you can make a good live action worth sitting down for. But Pinocchio was not one.
It was not the one. Okay.
Yeah, and if you hop on YouTube, there are tons of people on there right now just ripping it to shreds, just like calling it one of the worst that has ever been. And it's like, well, what did we expect? It's almost like Disney knew that this wasn't going to be good. That's why they made it a Disney, Plus only. If they thought it was going to be good, they would push it to theaters and make the $1 billion that, The Lion King did or whatever.
Agreed.
But
wholeheartedly agreed. That's how I feel about all the remakes. We have not watched it yet. We need to still. Actually, you know what? I'm going to say, I don't know that we do need to actually go see it. What we did need to see was Cars on the Road. That was our go-to. One of the first things. I think that's one of the few things that we for sure made sure to watch. And they are exactly what we were hoping for. Exactly what we were hoping for. Fun little moments.
They're really good. They're funny.
Solid. One of the ones that I enjoyed, the Haunted House, of course. Lights Out. Yeah. That one was going to be one of them for sure. The Salt. I mean, they all just were kind of fun little. They're expanded versions of those Mater tales that we've watched over and over and over again. So it's nice to have something new. The B movie one hit hard with my love of film production, everything like that. It felt like all of the stereotypes that they threw in there. Stuff I've heard. We haven't finished all of them. We still got 2 more to go that we haven't watched yet.
Have you seen Trucks?
I wasn't paying as much attention. I think I was doing something when that happened, and it's like a musical, right? Like
the catchiest song ever. It's like if Cars was trying to do a little bit of a musical.
I loved the Cretaceous Gardens.
Yes, me too.
It was
me too.
random. It felt like exactly what being a road trip with you would be like, where it's like, oh, look at this random dino park. Let's go learn some stuff. Wasn't this gonna be fun? And me going, I don't want to go.
Here's what's interesting about these is, yes, you're right. They are so reminiscent of the Mater tales, but it also it is one cohesive story.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like we are getting a 4th Cars movie, but in episodic form.
Just some vignettes.
It's like they were working on a 4th Cars movie, realized we may overdo it with that. Okay, let's just take these little stories out of the road trip movie and let's make these vignettes, and it works.
This really was one of the times where I'm like, yes, this is a much better series than it is an actual movie. Very few times that happens, but you know what? This was definitely one of them.
And I would be happy, so for those of you who haven't watched yet, the premise is that Mater has a sister and they're on a road trip out east to her wedding, and the series ends at her wedding. I would be fine with a second series of The Return. I think this holds up enough that if they've got enough other random stories in there like this, I'd take it. I'd watch it.
What other thing could they do? What were some of the traveling things that they didn't hit on this?
I would love a Cars theme park.
Yeah.
Like go to Cars, quote unquote, Disney World.
Ooh.
Cars Land.
Oh, Disneyland. In Disneyland.
Yeah, wouldn't that be very meta? That would be interesting. There's a lot more roadside attraction type things that they could touch on there. That I think would be worth it. Go to a big city, things like that.
Yeah, they definitely stay very rural, very outside outside skirts of stuff, small towns, things like that. They don't spend a lot of time.
National Park. We've not done like a Cars National Park.
Well, the legend kind of is
a little bit, sure.
We need a little bit.
And if you include,
ready.
If you're in the Cars universe, that does include Planes, which the second Planes movie does take place in their version of Yosemite. Have you watched those with the kids?
I've watched them. The first time I watched, especially the first one, was at your parents' house in Indiana.
Oh yeah,
we were staying there.
Yeah.
So for sure,
they're decent. I was
told that they were the worst thing.
Very low expectations.
Yeah, very low. And there was like, oh wow, that was actually better than I was actually planning them to be. Yep.
Right. We have some Star Wars news to get to.
Yes.
That you texted me on. This is bittersweet.
Basically, ever since Solo, something happened with Solo where Disney got so scared that they weren't going to make billions of dollars on any Star Wars thing they do. And it immediately made them pull the purse back. And they've been clutching that purse ever since. And this is just another moment where they're just tightening it even more. So
do you think this is a purse decision, or is this more of a creative decision?
I think they're one and the same. I think that it's all wound up because they don't really know what to do next, and they're very afraid of doing anything that wasn't based off of that original trilogy that became the prequels, that became the sequels. They don't really know what to do with it and what fans are going to like, which is to their detriment. They've been able to spin off The Mandalorian that alone feels kind of like an outlier. But so the news that we're kind of hinting around right now is so we have a series of actual movies that were supposed to come out, and more of them have been going MIA. And the latest one that was supposed to be coming out in 2023 was Star Wars Rogue Squadron. The director of that was to be Patty Jenkins, who's done the Wonder Woman movies. So she was supposed to be heading this one, and now that is now MIA. We don't know if it's ever going to come out, but it's been pushed back. They had 3 dates on the calendar for new untitled Star Wars films. That one was supposed to be that first one. Now the 2025 is the soonest that any certain Star Wars date is supposed to come out.
And what is that one supposed to be?
It was just untitled Star Wars release date.
And there's still rumors that Taika is going to do a Star Wars, right?
So most likely 2025 should be a Taika film. That was supposed to be it, and
There's no way that makes it. There's no way that makes it.
They've been pivoting so hard to TV. Both Boba Fett and Obi-Wan were both supposed to be movies. Standalone movies. They got axed the moment Solo happened, and they put everything on pause while they still finished up the sequel trilogy. But now maybe Taika's happened. It's still rumored that Rian Johnson is working on something, but now he's heavily invested into his Netflix deal. The Knives Out universe series, a Knives Out film, whatever it's called. Which I'm
the
excited
next one's
about.
like the glass onion.
It looks awesome with all the people that are in it. But now that's we don't know what's going to happen there. There's talks about Marvel Master being the guy who's Kevin Feige doing a Star Wars stuff. So they've basically pivoted all of their eggs into TV now with Ahsoka and the Acolyte and Skeleton Crew. We don't have any confidence that they're going to make another Star Wars movie, and that's really sad. Like I want to go to theaters to watch Star Wars stuff, Star Wars movies. I want to see them again, Eddie. Do you think, what we did? We got Pixar to come back to theaters. Maybe we can get Kathleen Kennedy to bring Star Wars back to theaters.
But that's a different thing. I mean, Pixar was still making movies. They just chose not to release them in theaters. I think what happened here, I have lots of strong opinions here. No shocker. I don't think they know at their core what Star Wars is, at least the people that they're bringing in to do it.
Yeah. And
again, I love them to death. But as you watch some of the behind the scenes stuff with J.J. Abrams, he didn't know. If you just listen to behind the scenes of Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau on The Mandalorian and listen to them talk about what makes a Star Wars story, what is the universe that is created there, and then you pivot and you go and you watch just a little clip of JJ talking about it, they have no idea. JJ has no idea. Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, there's a well-constructed framework to work within there. There's a real world that they understand the mechanics of how these things work. JJ, it was just very much like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we saw this in Star Wars? And it was fanboy. It was, what if we just give the keys of the kingdom to fanboys, which doesn't always work. And proof in the pudding is Rise of Skywalker. But here we got these guys who literally were mentored by George Lucas himself, especially in Dave Filoni. They get it. They understand these mechanics. So that's where I'm going, give these guys the movie. Let them run all of this because they obviously get it. And they're influencing and interacting with the other TV components enough that, they're starting to get it. Rogue One makes sense because you've got what's his name? Is it Dave Kaznick? The guy who wrote Empire.
Kazan.
Kazan. He has a heavy hand in the whole Rogue One stuff. And he did in The Force Awakens. So the stuff that kind of worked or did work, I would say Rogue One really worked. You've got these people in there that know the universe, that understand the mechanics of the stories. It's the stuff where you're throwing people in there that just don't get it.
Well, if you watch behind the scenes of The Last Jedi, they literally just put Rian Johnson out on an island and just said, whatever you want to do, it's fine. Doesn't matter what, like, he wrote it that way. And he wrote it that way. He wrote it like, there's part of me that wants to let him off the hook a little bit, but then part of me that wants to be like, no, you should have it was your duty to push back a little bit on why am I making this my own film. But he just got caught up in it. I don't know what the answer is, but yeah, you
ruin Luke Skywalker. You are ruined to us forever. We hate you forever for trying to ruin the most beloved character of all time. We hate you.
No holding back here, Eddie. Don't mince words here. So yeah, so this is a big blow to I'll say this. It just makes me sad because I want to see movies in the theater.
I'm there with you.
My hill to die on here. I want to see this stuff that I never really got to see the original trilogy in theaters. I only got to see the second and third film in theaters from Star Wars. Those are the only ones that I have, and those weren't. I mean, it was great at the time because I was like sophomore in high school, and it was my first films that I ever got to see in theaters, so it was amazing.
You've never seen a re-release of A New Hope,
Empire Strikes Back, but it's just different when you've seen it already a bunch of times, like having that first experience. So, anyways, I'll stop complaining about it, but. So that was a letdown, but what's not been a letdown yet has been all of the hype around Andor, especially these new trailers we've had come out. It should be out the day you're listening to this podcast, this episode.
3 episodes, a 3-episode premiere. I got choked up. I was so excited.
Yeah, they pushed it back, Eddie. We were supposed to have already been in the middle of all of this, but they pushed it back. We've been patiently waiting. And now we've got trailers with freaking spaceships with what looks like lightsabers coming out the sides of it. And so many questions about this. The spaceship lightsaber, Eddie, what was your thoughts? Because I saw the tag, someone put spaceship lightsaber, and I looked at it, and now that's all I can think in my head now. I'm like, I need this. I need to know more about this.
You texted me this, and I was like, what? Lightsaber, spaceship? And I'm imagining like a single hilted lightsaber. And I'm like, how does that work as that? And then I see like the double spiral one. And it's like, oh, okay. All right. No, the more I see of things like promotional material, the more I get excited. But like, I'm like,
you holding back?
Are you wincing a little bit?
Emotionally preparing.
Well, I was super excited for Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I would say like outside of, I think there was 2 really strong episodes in that whole series. The rest was fluff. And I mean, okay, we're talking about movies and turning them into TV shows. That probably should have just been a movie.
Should have been a movie.
That had such a solid story for a movie. To stretch that out to a series, you had to add all that extra fluff in there with the Inquisitors that I didn't want. It's an Obi-Wan Kenobi story. I want Obi-Wan Kenobi, not Obi-Wan Kenobi plus the Inquisitors. Like, I don't understand this. So that should have, in my opinion, just been a movie. So this one, it's like, okay, here we go. I'm really excited.
22 episodes.
22 episodes. So that does get me excited to know that it's 22 episodes. Hopefully you're telling me the story of how the whole rebellion was birthed. Like,
yeah.
And if you're going to tell me that story, I want to see it all. I want to see it all. Like, Give me every little bit of it that and from the trailers, like you're seeing a lot of new characters added in there, a lot of like good actors as well. Like, okay, all right. But I have high hopes for you. Don't let me down.
So hopefully we'll come back next week with a little bit of a tease of maybe how we emotionally feel about Andor. And if we're
I hope so.
I hope it's good.
I want to love it. I want to love it so much.
I want good things for it. I want good things for the Star Wars universe.
And we need a movie. I'm right there with you. We need a strong Star Wars movie. Just wipe the sequel trilogy off. Like, let's just delete it from Disney Plus. Act like it. Let's just all pretend it didn't happen, and let's start over.
And let's retcon it.
Retcon it, and let Dave Filoni take the helm. Just let him do it.
I'm getting on change.org right now and starting a petition to have this happen.
You start it, I'll sign it.
Okay.
And our 5 listeners will sign it.
Our 5 listeners. Hey, we're up to like 12 now. We're up to like 12 people. We got 12 dedicated fans. But anyways, so that's it for the Disney news for this week. What we were really here for is the next movie in our walk from 1988 through 2005 of all the movies we grew up with. And so this week's episode is another Pixar great, Monsters, Inc.
Cue the Disney sound effect.
Okay, the IMDb description for Monsters Incorporated is this. In order to power the city, monsters have to scare children so that they scream. However, the children are toxic to the monsters, and after a child gets through, 2 monsters realize things may not be what they think. I never like the 2 sentences. It should be 1 sentence, right?
I agree. I agree. Yes, you're totally right.
We need to list our rules of like these log lines, and that's a no-no. Doing the period.
Motion Picture Association of America, we highly recommend that you only write descriptions in 1-sentence format.
At least they didn't use actors' names. That's another pet peeve.
Rule number 2, don't use actors' names.
No.
Rule number 3, don't give away the plot of the movie. Don't spoil it. Yeah. Don't give it all away. Number 4, do use actors in monkey suits.
That's just a personal desire of all of us. It's just more monkey suits is just what we need.
So more important here, just some ground rules. Is it Monsters Inc. or is it Monsters Incorporated? What is the name of this movie?
What team are you on, Eddie?
I find myself using both.
Wow.
Because I don't know.
I mostly say Monsters Inc. Almost all the time.
I feel like that's maybe what I do as well. Yeah, Monsters Inc. Okay.
I did have to look up and see that it's because I couldn't find it when I searched on IMDb because there has to be a comma in the name. There's a Monsters comma.
Monsters Inc.
So I don't know. I don't really know what to do with that. And I don't know where to go with this conversation because I don't think either of us feel strongly either way other than I mostly just use Monsters Inc.
We need to call Pete Docter and Andrew Stanton. Like, that's what this comes down to.
That's all we got left. This was fun. So a year ago, Pixar did, or Disney did their Disney Plus Day at the theater, and you could go.
Oh yeah.
You could go see a surprise film that you didn't know what it was going to be.
They did it this year too.
Did they? But did they do it? I don't remember them doing.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, or was it this year? Wait a minute.
AMC theaters.
Like recently?
It was like like last weekend.
What? How did I not know about this? Eddie, are you serious?
I'm sorry.
Whatever. So
I almost texted you because I saw it come through and I thought, Well, I was already sending you lots of things through the course of that weekend.
I would have stopped everything if you'd have sent me that.
No,
you should have sent it to me.
I knew better.
Because what was great was
I failed.
last year on Disney Plus Day.
Please forgive me.
Thank you for.
I'm so sorry.
You good? You got all the apologies out? Are you just waiting for me to talk again so you can start it up again?
So a year ago, you went to Disney Plus Day in the theaters.
Disney Plus Day with my son, and it was his first movie ever in theaters. And we went for the Pixar Day, and you didn't know what you're going to go see. And they played Monsters, Inc. And it was great.
That's great. That
was a great middle ground movie that most everybody's going to love. Girls, boys, every parents, like, didn't have to worry about getting in there. And it's like, oh, it's just all like, I can't think of an example that would have been like too one-sided either way. But anyways, that was a great one to go see. So it reminded me, like, rewatching it yesterday, just how much I love this film.
What's so interesting about this movie, so this is our 4th Pixar movie ever, right? So you've got Toy Story came out, then A Bug's Life, then you had Toy Story 2, then this movie comes out. I think what's so interesting is the other films are things that we know, and it's a world in which we're somewhat familiar with. You're just turning it on its head just a little bit. Like, okay, let's zoom in on the bugs. Oh, there's a world that's happening in there with the bugs. Oh, what happens when people leave the rooms? Oh, there's a little world going on with the toys. This, I don't know. I might argue that this is the first time Pixar ventures into world building. Like, you've just got a whole nother, you've got the monsters world or universe sitting out there. And it is so creative. It is so out of the box, like that, out of the box, but at the same time makes sense. Like, the second you watch, you're hearing the premise unfold, it's believable, you buy it, but you're also like, wow, that's really clever. The
premise really does make this film from the and even just the setup of the entire film, where you got the whole, you could just sell it as there's monsters in the closet. What is it like to be that monster? What if this was their day job? Like, that alone just grabs you and go, this is so unique and interesting, especially at the time we hadn't ever seen anything like this. And then you realize in just that opening scene, oh, this is monsters in training, and they're at like their job site. And you got the electronic kid. And then from there on, you're just like, that kind of makes it. You're just bought into the rest of the thing.
Yeah.
It was interesting going back. There's not like tons and tons of witty, crazy dialogue or anything like that in this film. It's really just, once you've got the setup, you're in, and you've got obviously some great character and voice actors, and Billy Crystal and John Goodman as Sully and Mike. Great bad guy. You know how much I love great bad guys, with Randall, with Steve Buscemi. But the setup alone and like the story itself just carried this thing from the beginning. You were from the moment, and then everything else is just like, how do you make a monster world feel like it's an average everyday life in all the different little funny things that they go through?
Which is shocking, because you would think that, okay, you've got Billy Crystal and John Goodman, like, let's layer on the wit. And there's a few moments where you get that. You get some funny banter. But for the most part, you're right. Like, this is such a strong premise. It's a really strong story. And you've got really compelling characters. Like, you care for all of these characters. That you didn't need to. I mean, the moments you get the fun, kind of witty humor, it carries it. It works. But it's such a strong world, and you're dragged along through the story. You're pulled through the story because you want to know, oh, well, how does this get resolved?
There is no, like, it's not that you can't breathe in this film. Like, there's definitely plenty of breathing room inside of this, but nothing is ever dull. And there is no, like,
no boring moment.
We're not in the
no
parking
lull.
lot waiting for the next thing to happen. It goes from one setup to another, to another, to another, one twist and one turn. Throughout this entire film, it doesn't let up. And that's one of the also great parts of this is the plot of this film also keeps you moving as you go along without losing track of the characters and what you really hear about. And really that the synergy between Sully and Mike is so crucial to this, and Boo. Is there a cuter character in all of Pixar than Boo? Is there, Eddie? Can you think of anybody else that, like, the only other one I could think of was Dot from A Bug's Life. I'm trying to think of another character that you're just like, your heart just melts from the first moment they're on screen.
Baby Dory. Totally melts your heart.
Okay, hold up. Yes. I think you topped it. The little bug eyes on that thing.
I'm like, buy the plush right now. Take my money.
That's how I felt when I saw Grogu. It's like, I need to have this. Where is the toys? Why do you not have toys ready for me?
That and an emoji Mickey. For those, I have a great picture of JB discovering an emoji Mickey.
It's over on the bed right over here. So
yeah,
I'm not going to go get it.
But totally agree with you though. Boo is without any dialogue, right? Like she doesn't really say anything.
Gobbledygook.
Yeah, you care for her. You're rooting for her. The moment they strap her in the machine to like extract screams or whatever, like you are like, what? This in a Pixar film? Like, and of course you know, there's nothing horrific about her whatsoever, but just like the setup between the apparatus and such a cute, lovable character, you're like, how dare they? Like, it just those stakes just like inched up even more when you already were feeling them really high.
Some of the gags I do like in this is when they're in the locker room and he's trying to find a good scent for himself with the sprays, like old garbage, wet dog. Love that. Love the anytime the one guy who keeps on having 2319 called on him, it's just over and over again until finally he just like shoves the guy and like throws him in there. Just all of the
I love their walk to work early on in the film.
The Olympics thing running.
And even just the even before then when they're
the slow
like
motion
walking when they're walking through the city.
Okay.
Yes, getting to that, but when they're walking through the city, I think is such a brilliant sequence because there's so many little like monster gags that make the world like you feel this is a real working world and environment with its own, you know,
the scream
rules
shortage
and laws of nature. Yeah, all of those things. Like an energy crisis. Okay, yeah, like this is all so believable, and which is so crazy of a little sequence that just the simple action of them getting to work builds out this world so fully, so completely, and also being all the while like really, really funny.
Gotta talk about Roz. She's one of the scene stealers in this, which is actually voiced by a guy by Bob Peterson, which is funny. But Mike Wazowski. You didn't file your paperwork.
If I remember this, wasn't it like where I'm pretty sure he wasn't supposed to be the voice, that was one of those characters that like, oh, it should sound like this, and they just,
and nobody
that's
could
so
replicate
good,
it.
we'll just leave it in.
Yeah.
It's like Brad Bird and Edna Mode. He kept on going like, well, we need a voice actor who sounds like this, and they would always well, then you just do it. And he ends up voicing Edna Mode.
Big fan of Roz. She's one of my favorites. A little nugget in here is when they go to the restaurant, Harryhausen's, which sounds like a very upscale place. I love the name of it. But that was actually a stop motion artist from way back in the day who was like a legend. It's like one of the initial people who really popularized and did so many different films, all utilizing stop motion, which I learned of more by watching the series on Light and Magic. They spent a little bit of time talking about it. So then I was like, oh, Harryhausen's, that's the restaurant from Monsters, Inc.
Yeah, that was a really good nod. I thought it was a good little nod there to some old history of Hollywood.
Any other favorite moments? I mean, we got to talk about the Yeti. With the yellow snow. Was it actually gross yellow snow or was it something else?
No, they're lemon. They're lemon, of course.
Lemon flavor. Gotta go outside and get them. I've always wondered, like, was it what we know of as yellow snow or was it like something
And
else?
where's he getting lemons in Nepal?
Yeah, I don't.
No, I think it's great to have the Abominable Snowman. It's a great, not just monster that is well known in the world, but it also hits Disney fans really well with the Matterhorn in Disneyland and then also Expedition Everest over at Animal Kingdom and Disney World. Like, you know, Disney's got its history with the Abominable Snowman, the Yeti, so it like really worked. And you got to get your cameo in there from John.
Of course. I do have a question about back on Boo. How old is Boo? Because she can barely communicate with like words, yet she also has drawing skills. And it was confusing me. And like,
so she has drawing skills. She's potty trained.
Yes.
But she has like no words.
Yeah, like limited. She can basically say Mike Wazowski and Kitty.
I was trying to figure this out because I have almost 2.5-year-old and she can carry on full sentences and has decent drawing skills, but is not potty trained.
So Pixar's wiki says that Boo is 2 years old. It's a 2-year-old human child. But it is confusing. I don't know of any 2-year-olds that could draw that well. That's what was really throwing me off. The drawings were really what was like throwing me off a little bit. Maybe fans can send in their children's drawings or whatever. But that's like everything else kind of worked. But even the potty training, I don't know that many 2-year-olds that are already that well along. There was that's what was. I was like, do any of these dudes that made this film, like, do they any of them have
toddlers?
that was the it wasn't like a plot hole. It kind of was.
No,
we kind of overlooked it, but it didn't hurt it. But it was still like, what is happening here?
Boo strikes me more as a 3-year-old that is slow to communicate.
And still great drawer.
Yeah. Because I mean, Lewis is 4 and he doesn't have that level of drawing skills.
No, I'm sure there are kids out there that do, but no one that I know of. Got a shout out.
I do love all of that parenting. That is such a parenting thing where it's like, what and you're always talking about milestones and it's like, really, how am I supposed to know these things? How am I supposed to gauge all these things? They didn't give me this manual at the hospital.
No, they didn't. They don't give you very many manuals other than show me you can put in a car seat. That was always the big one.
Show me you can put in a car seat. And how many times can we tell you, don't shake the baby? don't shake the baby. If the baby's crying, don't shake the baby. If the baby's crying a lot, don't shake the baby. Like, that's what our hospital told us a ton. I'm like, okay, I get it. And then you're like, oh, yeah, okay.
Got to do a shout out for I know this is just all over the place, but the citizens on the news. He picked me up with his mind powers and shook me like a dog.
Like a dog. I love that you pulled that random moment out because that is arguably one of my favorite little just moments in this entire film.
It's very reminiscent of Parks and Rec, the townspeople that come to the microphone to complain about things, which you've had experience in small towns with.
So accurate. You
were the one that were like,
I've sat in on those meetings.
You were like, this is literally living Parks and Rec right now. That's what it feels like.
Well, and again, we come back to, I think that's what makes this movie work so well, is that you believe every nook and cranny of the world, that it really, really, really makes sense. And then that way, when you get to the moments where it is, okay, a very particular aspect of the world building or of the storyline, you believe it, hook, line, and sinker. Like the whole door portal system is ingenious. And you don't second guess that for a second because the world around it is so well built out and so well understood that when you get to all of the sequence is at the end. The sequence at the end with all the different doors and they're whizzing by and everything, and they're climbing in and out of all the different doors and everything like that is, even as rewatching it, and it's now, over 20 years old, it holds up 100%, and is just as riveting of a sequence. I love the creativity, like whoever had that spark of an idea of the doors and the portals and everything is just like, oh, that's so brilliant.
It's like, where do the doors go once we're done with them? Oh, they must have to keep them all together somewhere. Like that could make for a great chase and a great trying to find the next person through the next door and the portals and stuff like that. And it always felt grounded. It always felt true. And there was nothing that they did that I was like, wait, that's not possible. That wouldn't end up in the right spot. Although there were times where I'm like, going through random doors would put you, like at one point they were close to him, but then they decided to go through some other doors. I was like, I don't know that's going to be faster because you have no idea where that other door is going to end up.
Where are you going to go? Yeah.
But it made it a funner chase.
A nice little tidbit. There are well-documented things that Disney Imagineering have tried several times to create a Monsters, Inc. door roller coaster.
Whoa, Eddie. Why hasn't this happened? Because all we have right now is the Monsters, Inc. ride.
Yeah, you have Monsters, Inc. ride in Disney's California Adventure. And then at the Magic Kingdom in Disney World, you have Monsters, Inc. Laugh Floor, which is a really fun, like, theater experience. And so you go in, you sit in this theater, and there are monsters who are, like, in training for the Laugh Floor, right? Mm-hmm. Playing off the end of the movie. And it's live interaction. So there's actors behind the screen with microphones and cameras, and they're making jokes off of whatever audience members have come in, and there's live It's a really clever show. It's really good. But nonetheless, we did not get our Doors roller coaster, which would have been really cool because that entire sequence, the flip at the end of getting the boss, what's his name, Waternoose, to confess on camera, like even knowing that that's how that happened. It's been long enough that I haven't seen the story. It got me again where I'm like, oh, yeah, it's the training room. Oh, that's so clever. That's so cool.
It still makes me cry when Sully makes Boo cry. It's still so sad. It just breaks my heart every time. I'm like, no, don't look at him. It's going to change you forever.
Well, and then I have to say the ending of this movie is such a brilliant ending to end with his, okay, we see the laugh floor realized, he's kept the little sliver of her door. Oh, Mike's reconstructed it. And then just to end with his face hearing her, and they didn't overdo it. That could have been something where they could have overdone that, shown us too much, but they didn't. They showed such creative restraint and just showed us his face there. It's like that moment for me encapsulates this whole film so well, where it's just a straightforward, simplistic story, but in a very complex environment, in a very complex world.
Yep.
And that you see them just holding back when they need to or pushing forward when they need to. It's just dialed in, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. It's just saying like this whole movie just feels like dialed in, to perfection. And that moment just kind of, such a great snapshot of going, I think anybody else would have tried to do too much with that. Don't tell me what to feel. Just show it to me. Just give it to me and let me feel it for myself. And that's what they did there.
So, Eddie, what did you feel about this film? How are you going to rate it?
Wow. This, man, we haven't even touched. I love the score. I love Randy Newman's score here. Just a little more jazzy.
Very Randy Newman score here.
We haven't that they were able to create a franchise off of this. I'm not as big of a fan of the Disney Plus show Monsters at Work.
I watched the pilot and I was done.
I really like Monsters University.
I know, right?
And I hope
I only watched it this year for the first time, or last year for the first time, and I'm like, where was I? This was good.
Maybe outside of Toy Story, the best Pixar sequel. Because I love Toy Story too, but I think Monsters University is such a smart follow-up. It's just so brilliant. But this is not a review of that. I needed to say that. And I hope we get to Monsters University in our podcast. It's not in this round, but whatever we do next.
Yeah.
So I hold all that together and I would say, I don't know what it is. There is something that just holds this back just a little bit for me, where I don't think I'm going to go the full 5. And I can't even articulate what it is, but there's just something that just holds it back just a little bit where I'm going to give it a 4.5.
This is a hard one. Yeah. We've been giving it mostly glowing reviews other than The Age of Boo. I think maybe it's like they made it so every day in like trying to make it so incredibly grounded that to some degree there is a limit on how much you're going to enjoy a story about a workplace environment. It was fun and creative, and it's they trying to get this girl back home. Was it laughs that I was looking? I was looking for maybe more. Like I felt like I laughed more in A Bug's Life, of just with the characters. This felt very much more just cut and dry.
I think you've hit it, and I think you even hit on it earlier of saying this. It's not as witty as you would expect it to be.
There's not a ton of one-liners.
You got Billy Crystal, John Goodman, Steve Buscemi, like These are guys who can do that. Let them loose at the mic. Just let them loose. And maybe that's one of the things that I really like about Monsters University is Monsters University. I feel like they did that there's a lot more wittier one-line moments in that movie. I think that's, I'm going to agree with you on that one. I think it's that wittiness. If you would have just let that loose, if you would have just given me just a lot more humor in this, I think this would have pushed this over the edge and been a 5 for me. But that's probably what holds it back just a little bit.
I don't like agreeing with you wholeheartedly on the star rating because it's nice to have something to pick at each other later on. But 4.5 feels like the right number for this. It's really high. It's really, really well done. Great story, great heart in this film, great lovable characters. But we're lacking a little bit on, give me things that I'm going to talk about for a long time, other than like my quote. Yeah,
I'm not quoting that outside of Mike Wazowski. And don't forget to file your paperwork.
Yeah, when you can do her voice, basically.
Yeah.
You could say anything. So I think some of the actual dialogue. I think it's dialogue that I was a little, the setup, the premise, the characters, all of those were great, and I cared about all these people, but I wanted a little bit more on the dialogue. So I think 4.5. I'm gonna copy you, Eddie, and go with 4.5 on this.
It's weird because it is a fantastic movie. It's just a fantastic movie. And I'm shocked how well it holds my kids' attention.
Agreed.
My kids love this movie. And I think that's any Pixar movie. I'm noticing that just in between, for example, 2 weeks ago, we watched How to Train Your Dragon. Probably my favorite DreamWorks animated film. I'd have to stop and think about that. But I was shocked how much my kids just could barely hang on to that movie. And I thought, oh, it's dragons. Like Lewis will at least as a 4-year-old, But there are so many moments where they just, boom, they lose the kids. The storytelling just doesn't hold you in that. But a Pixar film, my kids never lose their attention. Even, we'll get to it here in a couple of, in several episodes, but like WALL-E, you would think WALL-E would be the Pixar film where my kids would lose it. Nope. Holds them.
They're in all the way time. Through. Something about it.
Something with their storytelling, with the way that they structure these things, they just hold them. Monsters, Inc., my kids love. We ended up having to watch this in 2 parts. Bedtime came up and we're like, okay, we got to stop it. And it took us a couple of days to finish it. And every day my kids were like, when are we going to finish Monsters? When are we going to finish Mike Wazowski? When are we going to finish Mike Wazowski?
That's adorable.
It's like, okay, we're getting there. So,
yep. And with
4.5, folks.
4.5. And with that, your life has been forever changed by another episode of Honey, We Made a Disney Podcast.
Hey, be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to your other favorite podcast. And while you're there, give us a 5-star review or just share it with your best friend.
You can also check us out at honeywemade.com, where you can see our full movie list as we continue to go through all of Disney's movies from 1988 to 2005, including next week when we review Snow Dogs. So excited.
Thank you for listening. And remember, we scare because we care.